Hey guys, Postron here, and today let's talk about my 100 Simulacrum challenge that we just finished on stream yesterday on twitch.tv/Postron. And basically, I just finished sorting everything out, and I can tell you everything about it, how much I made per hour. I can show you all the items I got. We're also going to talk some strategies for Simulacrums. You might be surprised with how much of your Simulacrums returns are actually not how lucky you get or anything, but how efficient you're at trading. So we're going to talk about some of that at the end. But yeah, let's go into what I actually dropped and how much Exalts per hour I made. Now, as for unique drops, we have split personalities, we have voices, and we have megalomaniacs. Let's go through all of them and how I priced them. So number one, split personalities and voices. Now, voices, we had a total of 27 dropped. Average one every 3.7 Simus, with split personality being a little bit less rare, with 42 total and an average of one every 2.4 Simus. Now, do note here that I did drop 2 voices with free passives, which is on average pretty lucky, but I did not really undo that in the calculations. I just let it here because we were extremely unlucky when it came to split personalities on the other hand. So these kind of model each other out. One of these right now goes for 18x, and out of 42 we didn't have a single split personality that's worth more than 20c, which is outrageous. It's insane, right? So in that sense, all my split personalities in total were in the 3x, so I did not like remove one of these to make it more realistic because we got really destroyed on split personalities. Now when it comes to megalomaniacs, so the way I calculated this is I took an estimated value of 20x. Now, in total, we dropped 104 megalomaniacs with an average of basically one every Simu since we did 100. Now, the thing about this is, right, you might say, well, 20x is a little bit high, but from what I know, right, this is not my first rodeo with Simulacrums, right? Usually what will happen is if I put all of these up for 1x and then lower it like by 10c or 0.1x every 2 days or so, what will happen is round about 10 of these will get bought up, right? And then there will be 1 or maybe even 2 that will sell for like around about 10x because it fits perfectly into someone's build and they will be willing to actually pay that. So that's where the 20x is actually coming from. I think it's actually a very low estimate if you know how to price your megalomaniacs, but you can also just remove it altogether if you don't believe in this, but these can sell for a ton. Now, the way I calculated about 90% of what I made is with Excellence Next. If you don't know this program, basically you can import all your tabs here and it will give an estimation of how much everything in those tabs are worth. Now, this has some caveats. Number one, it does not control for bulk prices, which we will do later. But for now, the filter total is 558.1 Exalts for everything in total. This does not include maps. This does not include cluster jewels and some other stuff that we will have to add on top. But this is the starting area we're working with. And if you look at here, this is basically the upper corner here, Excellence Next. Now, everything is being calculated with X being 148 chaos as of this recording. That's what I have to go off of. So take that with a grain of salt, depending or if you're from the future or whatever, right? Always check before you do your calculations. Then we already talked about the Simu uniques and some other things that we did were like maps, bulk sales, other stuff. We're going to get to all of that. But first up, let's look at what these 558 Exalts actually contain. Pause from the future here real quick because I just saw while editing that just in case people are kind of thinking that I double priced my clusters or something, just so you know, these don't work in Excellence. So if I remove these, nothing about the price changes here. So I didn't double price my cluster jewels or anything, just to point that out. Now, when it comes to currency here, number one, I want to make this clear at the start. There was like 1,400 chaos here. We had to convert some. So some of the chaos here is in Exalts. At the end, we had around 32 Exalts-ish. And the thing with the Exalts is we actually only dropped about 11 just raw Exalts, right? And the rest all came from Exalted shards. So I don't know exactly, I don't remember how it was last time I did Simus, but I feel like there's a lot more Exalted shards dropping, and I don't really know if this is just randomness or whatever, but I felt like a lot more just Exalted shards dropping from all the currency rewards. Now, other than that, I have a pretty strict loot filter, as you can see here. The only Orb of Alterations and Orb of Fusings you will see here are actually from div cards. I have them hidden from my filter, but maybe some like 10 stacks or something I actually do not have hidden. So if you have a less strict filter, you will take more time to actually pick stuff up in between waves, but at the same time, you will make a little bit more currency. I don't think it's worth it. Now, what we obviously picked up were GCPs, a ton of money in GCPs, a ton of money in Awakened Sextants. This is round about 20x in Awakened Sextants right there. On that 69 Ancient Orbs, which is nice, obviously. Other than that, currency raw was not a very big bulk of what we made. You will see on the next slide what actually made us the most currency. Now, first up, something that I felt was kind of introduced with Wave 30 is a lot more of these fragments dropping. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? 10 extra waves, they're all at high level, so a lot more chance to drop these. But I don't remember many of these actually dropping. Now, these two are actually from the divination cards. So just in case you're wondering, these cannot drop from the Simu waves themselves. We got a ton of emblems, as you can see here. We got a ton of sacrifice fragments, which are actually huge money for Simulacrums. Now, not huge, but it's just an extra layer, right? Before they could actually not stack, right? So picking them up was an absolute nuisance, right? You wouldn't even pick them up. I actually hit them from my filter in Simus 2 leagues ago, I remember. But now you can actually pick them up quite easily, and they sell for quite a bit. So that is a big plus just for Simulacrums in general. A ton of Breach Stones, as you can see here. And then our big money maker, and everybody who ever did Simulacrums knows this, were Scarabs. Now, the problem with Excellence Next when it comes to Scarabs is the way it calculates it is kinda flawed. It does not calculate it in quantity. It only calculates the single price. And as everybody who ever bulk sells knows, obviously, the more Scarabs you have, the more you can charge for them because people will actually save a lot of time buying them. I did kind of at the end control for that right here. Down we have a bulk sales session, which we're going to go over. And Scarabs actually makes out a ton of that because if you price it in bulk, you'll make a lot more Exalts than without it. But other than that, we don't have to calculate this. It's already in the Excellence Next calculation. And as you can see here, some of the Scarabs drop more often, like Blight, Metamorph, Rusted Legion, and also Abyss. And this is because they not only drop from the Scarab reward, they also drop from Abyss reward, right? The Blight reward, the Catalyst reward, and the Legion reward. Now, something I want to point out here is that I actually did not do the Scarab recipe yet, which would net us more money in total. I just didn't want to do it just so you can have like a visual representation. But basically, what the recipe is you have to have two of the same Scarab, and then you gotta have a Orb of Horizon, and what you do is you trade it in here, and then you get a random new one of the same tier. So if it's rusted, if it's gilded. You can do this with whatever. In this case, we got a shitty one, but what can happen is you can just transform them into the best one. They are not weighted, right? So you can literally just get, if you hand in 2 of these, you could get a gilded Divination Scarab, a gilded Reliquary Scarab, whatever, right? So definitely do that. I will be doing it, but for just completionist's sake and for to make it a little bit simpler, I kept it this way. Same thing with the catalysts, right? You can basically transform all of these shitty catalysts into good ones, making a little bit more money on average, right? The most money you make are with Fertiles, Prismatics, and Tempering. These ones don't even drop. I don't know what happened. I actually didn't see if my filter was screwed or something. I don't know what happened. I actually checked my filter and I think they're in there. I don't know. Could it be that these actually don't drop from Simulacrums? Kind of weird. It might be. Maybe they forgot to include them when they made these. But yeah, I didn't drop any unstable or accelerating for some reason. I don't know what exactly happened, but yeah. Now, oils overall are very, very little money. I didn't drop a single, I don't know, opalescent or higher oil, like at all, right? I don't know. It is very tiny, but I do remember that, I mean, oils aren't really much of the equation. Now, for essences, I didn't upgrade them yet, but I will either sell them at Shrieking or at Deafening, depending on what I find out, right? I'll definitely not leave them at Screaming, but for now, this is how they drop, so this is how we have it. Some of them are Shrieking. That's because we actually had the Divination card that we handed in that gave us the Shrieking, so those are the small ones. But usually only Screamings drop, right? Also some Remnants, but overall, we had to also calculate a little bit more bulk here. More into that later. Then we have the fossil tab, which we also calculated some bulk on top, because once again, Excellence Next doesn't really do bulk. It only gives you the price which one would cost and multiplies it, which is obviously incorrect, right? In total, we got 19 Prime Chaotic Resonators, which are also pretty good money. I think they go for like 40 C each or something as of this moment. Let's check real quick. Yeah, actually 42 C. In bulk, you could probably sell them for like 50 C even. So yeah. Now, what I will say with fossils is that I've kind of seen from previous leaks is I feel like with the Delve rework, they did reduce the amount of fossils that actually drop from Simus. I don't know if this actually was in some patch notes, but I remember this being a lot higher. I feel like about half of the fossils actually dropped that I expected. So a lot less money from fossils overall. Now we'll go over maps in a second, but this is just a tab with all level 21 gems. Now these are all level 21s without quality, which don't sell that well, right? But most of them you can still sell for like 5 to 20 C. I did not calculate them completely because obviously some of these, if they're like 5 C, you won't even price them. So they would just inflate the currency, right? I priced these manually on top. Now these are 2120s and these basically always sell for at least a decent amount. Now on the topic of gems, something I did not include were all the 19 and 20 and 23% gems that I have here. Now obviously some of these might go for like 10 C, but who really has the time to sort out all of these? I just wanted you to show this. These are all the gems with 19 or higher quality that actually dropped. You can turn them in for GCPs. I will just keep them because I make a lot of builds, right? Sometimes you need something for leveling, so it's nice to kind of have this library of gems to go back onto. But I did not calculate these into the profit at the end. Then I also have incubators. Now there is a ton of incubators that actually dropped. For example, if we just take stack decks, right, you can see all of these. These actually stack now. Now, if you're wondering, these different stacks basically have different item levels, which for a lot of rewards don't really matter. It makes the stacking a little bit weirder overall. Now, the thing with incubators is that usually I should have put a little bit of bulk on top because if you sell them, you will make a lot less money than if you use them yourself. So if you use them yourself, the calculation in Excellence Next doesn't do this one justice because you will get a ton of currency out of this. But in the end, I decided against it because obviously some people don't really like fiddling around with incubators. So this is just the raw value if you would actually sell the incubators. Something I will tell you is that personally, I would never sell incubators. The margin you get versus using them yourself, even though they can be annoying, definitely not worth selling. So I will not be selling them. But for the sake of this recording, I just put in whatever they were worth on the trading website. Then we have uniques. Now, some of them are already corrupted, right? So for example, here, some of them bricked. For example, the Lion Eyes didn't get anywhere. Now I have them here in another tab. We will go over that in a second because some of the jewels, the unique jewels that I corrupted got corrupting blood, so they were worth a little bit more. Other than that, standouts, I guess a 6-link Dodre skin, which is like, I think 100 C last time I checked. Yeah, 100, 120 C, I don't know exactly. Some of these helmets, some Prism Guardians are going to sell well. This I'm going to keep for leveling, right? All about, this is not as much as I would have thought. There were no like crazy unique, obviously, like Mageblood or Headhunter or any of those, which is kind of expected. Even in 100 Simus, you're probably not going to get any of these, which is also a reason why the unique rewards is kind of eh. Now, there were in total 11 tabulas, which I actually calculated in the currency section here. As you can see, 51 Divine Orbs total. Around 15 or 16 of these were just corrupted 6-links or tabulas, right? So that also comes on top. But overall, uniques are a very, very small fraction of what you're going to make in Simulacrums. Now, this tab here is for the prophecies. Now, they removed prophecy rewards actually completely. So all you're left with here is Twice Enchanted, which drops from the lab rewards. And in total, as you can see here, what is this? Like 120 plus 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 128 Twice Enchanted in total, which is pretty good money, right? They're like 4 C each. Maybe you can sell them for more in bulk. I don't really think so. But yeah, also something to note. So if you don't have these on your filter and you do like 100 Simus, you're going to lose out on like 4x or something. Just pointing that out. So maybe check that before you do it. Now at the end here, I also included like a little bit of value to the rares that you drop because you actually drop quite a bit. Now, number one, I actually did not include any Labyrinth enchants at all. Like, I think there was like 1 or 2 that I had at the start. Yeah, I just put them out, but they're not really worth anything, right? But most of these are kind of trash. I didn't actually feel like it was worth hovering over every single one just to see if you get a GG one, because there aren't that many good ones anymore. And even if you hit a good one, with the changes to armor and evasion, it feels like the base matters a lot nowadays. So even if you get like a really good enchant, it would also have to fit the base. So that kind of made it so I just hit all of the labyrinth enchants, all of the helm enchants. I think this one was from like one of the first runs. I kept this one. But overall, all this is like Alva jewelry. And Alva jewelry, if you craft it, if you, I don't know, do like one crafted mod on top, you can often sell them for like 1x, for example, if you hit percentage life on jewelry, or you hit minus mana cost. So for example, for this all in total, all I did here is put an extra 5x. I'm pretty sure I'm actually going to make 10 plus exalts, but just for simplicity, I put a lower value on these. I still think they're worth picking up, so definitely check those out. So those were all the things that Excellence could actually calculate, right? Some of them we actually got some bulk on top, so I will do this first here. As you can see here, bulk sales, extra value. Now essences, this is all like calculated. I estimated it, so it's not perfect. It won't be perfect, but roundabout in extra value we're going to get from bulk sales on essences is going to be 6.7 exalts. For sacrifice fragments, just like 2.1 exalts extra. Scarabs, we have a whooping 34.8 exalts, and that is just because with this kind of amount you have here, it is going to sell like candy. And on top of that, this is like, I don't know, like a few thousand scarabs, right? So obviously 34.8 is actually, I think, a very low estimate. And fossils on top are 4.8 exalts. Now, if you don't really believe in bulk selling, I don't know what to tell you, but I guess you can remove these 48.4 exalts. As you will see at the end, it won't really make a dent, but I still think this is more than fair. I'm actually pretty sure this is more like 80, 90 exalts if you know how to sell your stuff. But yeah, this is what we ended at. Something else that Excellence Next has a little bit of a problem calculating. Now, I don't exactly know how this works on Excellence Next. I heard it's kind of bugged sometimes because when you have like the map tab, I feel like it loads a lot longer, which is probably because it takes all of these as extra tabs. I don't really know how it works. But overall, what happened is I kind of had to calculate a little bit further. If you're wondering why there's 2 Forge of the Phoenixes here, these don't drop from Simulacrums. These were for divination cards. But yeah, overall, what I did here is calculate the maps just manually. I actually went out and priced all of these and some other I estimated. So number one, you might be surprised, but currently T10 towers go for 16 chaos per. So if you don't have them favored on your filter already, do so now. It is a ton of cash. I will show you my maps real quick here. Is this the right one? Yeah, this is not. Yeah, this is the right one. So for example, as you can see here, I actually have extra tabs for maps. Because the thing is with map tabs, they only can hold up to 72 of one map. So at some point you're going to run out. For example, if I put in tower here, you can see all the towers that actually didn't fit in. And in total, I think we had 172 towers, right? Yeah, for a total of 172 towers, which in total will be 18.6 exalts. Funny that the T10 maps is actually the biggest of your returns. So one thing to point out about maps is they actually respect your atlas. So if you have something favored, you're going to drop more of it. So before you do a simulacrum session, number one thing, I'm going to point this out at the end as well when we talk about making the most cash out of your simulacrums. Get all your completions here. So you can actually favor stuff, so it's easier to sell. So you can favor maps that are worth more than others of their tier. Really, really important. Then we have some maps that I just priced for 1 to 1.5 C. Now, 333 in total of T11 maps for a total of. So these are very little gains in total. As you can see, these are worth almost nothing. You might even remove them from your filter because they're a little annoying to sell, right? But because obviously maps don't stack, right? So it's a little bit more annoying. They're actually, funnily enough, these give you around as much as your sacrifice fragments, which is very, very hilarious in my opinion. Now, T13s actually sell a little bit better. Now, my guess why that is probably that Harbinger orbs give you on average more return if you put it on a T13. So T13s get bought up in bulk a lot more. Now you could put these to 1.5 and these to 2C, but I just took prices that you can actually sell very quickly to not inflate the currency. We'll make more. We'll make all the returns anyway. It doesn't really matter. Then at T14, I distinguished between normal T14s, which are worth like 3.C per, and atolls, which I favored it here, right? Which are actually go for a good 7C per in bulk. So these make out for a lot more. Once again, really important that you actually check what you have favored. Then we have the T15 maps, also 3C per. There's no real standout maps. Silos do sell a little bit better overall, but I didn't feel like it was necessary to put them in here. And a lot of T16 maps are dropping, as you can see, a ton more than the other ones, which is basically just because after wave 20, all the waves that got added are all T16 plus, right? In terms of item level. So there's going to be a lot more T16 maps than anything else. So here it's also important that you pick the right map. I picked Glacier because it's a map I really like to run and a map that also sells pretty well. You can also go for Underground Seas. Check the prices before. Now, I did 4C on average, and the reason for that is if we look at how many Glaciers I actually dropped, it's around about half of all the T16 maps, even a little bit more, right? So if you look at this here, and then obviously the 72 in the map tab as well over here, right? In total, Glaciers go for around about 5C in bulk, and the rest goes for around about 3C in bulk. So what I did in the end is I just approximated it at like 4C per right here. And then we have some random unique maps, right, which are like 1.2x. Now, some things I want to point out is, for example, Poor Choice are actually worth picking up if you get a lot of them, right? These actually sell reasonably okay in bulk, right? Like this beachhead, I think, was from a divination card, so don't mind them. They actually cannot drop anymore. Now, obviously, curse crypts, stuff like that. I just took a low estimation for these. And then at the end here, which you might be a little bit surprised by. Now, we already talked about the rares here, right? This is just an approximation of what I think the Alva jewelry will sell for, right? But cluster jewels come in at 47.8 exalts. Now, if we look at the cluster jewels here, I distinguished them by less than item level 84 and item level 84. Most of your cluster jewels will actually be item level 84 because after wave 20, everything will drop at 84, which is a huge money maker, I can tell you that. Now, there were a lot more cluster jewels than this. I just want to point this out. I had to delete around 3/4 of my cluster jewels. The ones that are left are all sellable. So these are just sellable. They don't work in Excellence Next, so I had to kind of approximate their value here. Now, the 47x, for example, if you take a look at these jewels here, I in total dropped 2 of these, which I think on average is actually unlucky to only drop 2 I-84 minion damage with 12 passives. Now, if we look at this I-84, 12, these currently, just for the base, go for around about 12-ish exalts, right? So that's already half of the currency. Just these 2 cluster jewels, already half of the currency that we made off of the cluster jewels. There's a lot more minions here at 11 passives, 8 passives, 9 passives. These all sell. The minions all sell. So always pick them up, especially if they're 84 plus. Now then we have some, for example, we have some spell damage, 84 plus, with the 12 passives, which is used by some builds. We have physical large clusters, right? Which the 8 passives sell really, really well, and so forth and so forth. We have mana reservation, 84 plus, and in the lower ones here, most of the things that are actually left are 8 passives, because if you go for notables on large cluster jewels, the item level doesn't really matter. So in that case, the 8 clusters are still selling. Now, the mediums, most of these will go for like 10C per, some of them 15C per. Same here, actually, not that much changes. So if you don't want to do those smaller trades, right, you can also erase this completely. They actually are very little of our margin. Most of our margin will actually be coming from the large cluster jewels, but also I wouldn't underestimate small cluster jewels with I-84 plus. So definitely look out for those as well. Now, in terms of gems, I definitely was not the most efficient. Now, if you see this here, you think this is kind of empty, you can level more. I had to actually sell some of them to sustain the cost of Simulacrums, unfortunately, because the cost of Simulacrums is fine, but if you have to steadily buy Enlightens all the time, you have to buy like Awakened gems that cost like 2 to 3x, and I can level like 9 gems at once. This adds up quite a bit. Now, the gem XP is already in the Excellence Next, right? Because I bought all of these gems off of the Simulacrums, right? So basically, the way I bought most of these were from Enlightened 4s that I hit at the start, and then I just reinvested into these and kept going. So there's not gonna be anything added for XP. What I will say on average is from level 1 to level 5, it will take you around about 20 Simulacrums to level this, so you can do 5 batches of this if you do a 100 Simulacrum challenge, for example. But in terms of Enlightens actually are you can almost level more than twice as many. So in the time that it takes you to get a Awakened gem from 1 to 5, you can level more than 2 Enlightens, which is good to know, right? So just check out the prices. One thing I will say here is, if you have more investment than me and you can actually level stuff like Awaken GMP, Awaken Multi-Strike, crazy stuff like that, your margins will go up by quite a bit, but that obviously comes with a lot of investment. I'm just going to say that. In total, from the corruptions, I think we hit 3 level 4 enlightens and 2 level 4 empowers, which, like I said, were reinvested to actually buy all of these gems. Now, obviously, we didn't level anything in our main setup, so if your build can handle it, for example, if your build can handle removing like 7 gems, you will make a lot more currency, probably around about 60 to 70 exalts more, or like, I don't know, like half to 1 exalt more per simulacrum. If you can actually manage to remove some of your, maybe, I don't know, other than you probably can't remove your auras, you obviously can't remove your main setup, but maybe, I don't know, some of your totem setups or something. So the stronger your build will get, the more opportunity to have to actually level even more gems. But that will come at even more cost in terms of investment. So be careful. This can cost you like hundreds of exalts, which is why I had to reinvest, right? Now, actually, something I want to point out here, because some people don't do this, is you can get a bow plus a replica Maloney's or Maloney's. I think replica is cheaper, so I bought this one to actually level 9 gems offhand, just in case you weren't aware. And you can actually get a synthesized bow with an implicit with quality of socketed gems, and then also craft the quality of socketed gems. I was too lazy to get one, but if you want to min-max leveling your enlightens and empowers, definitely do that. But yeah, you can level up to 9 gems offhand. Now, in terms of divination cards, something that is absent here are stack decks. We actually opened them live on twitch.tv/Palstron. It was a lot of fun. The biggest thing we got from the stack decks was a brother stash, which also got included in the currency over here. But basically, all that happened is we got some goodies, right? Some of these actually dropped from the Simulacrums itself. Now we dropped a Fiend. On average, this is actually not that lucky. If you do a ton of Simulacrums, you have a ton of divination rewards. At some point, you're going to hit something, right? 100 Simulacrums, that's like 50 hours of grinding. You're going to get something good, right? Now, we got some Patience, the Damned is worth something, Iron Bard, Ambitious Obsession. Now, these are kind of like small timers, but then if we go down a little bit more, we got a Nurse, we got 2 Academics, we got an Enlightened, we got 2 Wealth and Powers. These were both from the stack decks, just pointing that out. We got 2 Strategists. We got this one here, which I didn't even know existed. Pretty cool. 7 Years Bad Luck, also pretty good money. Alluring Bounty, good money. And then a Winter's Embrace at the end, with obviously the Fiend on top. Like I said, most of the exalted divination cards were already turned in. In total, I think we got like 9-ish exalts from these rewards, a ton of Hoarders, a ton of Saints Treasures. Now, these are just some of the 2120s that are worth a little bit more. I think it was Ice Spear and Nightblade. I don't even know if they are worth that much. Yeah, like 80 plus Chaos, right? Then we have this one. These are just things that we leveled, right? Some enhances that we leveled. We actually, at the end, dropped a level 1 Enlighten. Now, obviously, if we dropped Enlightens, we would just level them on the next rotation, right? In total, we dropped 5 Enlightens, actually, which I think was very lucky. We only dropped 3 Empowers, and we dropped 3 Enhances, right? The biggest unique we got was a Azenov's Gentle Touch here, which goes for, like, what, 2 Exalts right now, right? Whatever. Now, I corrupted quite a bit of rare jewels, and in the end we got Might of the Meek with Corrupted Blood, which I think sells semi-well, right? It's like 55, 60 Chaos, right? And then we have a Primordial Eminence with Corrupted Blood, which sells for around about 40 Chaos. And this one, I think there was another Beachhead, right? These were both from divination cards. But at the end, if we add all of these up, we have, once again, this is the Exalt price as of this recording. The Excellence next with the easy currency was around about 558 exalts. With everything else that Excellence Next could not calculate, the Simu uniques, right? The maps here, the bulk sales that we put some extra on. Like I said, if you don't want to put this on top, you do you, right? We have the other stuff, which is Cluster Jewels Rares. Here in the end, we can see total currency made 774.7 exalts, minus the investment from Simus. Now, while we did these kind of went up and down. That's also why it's a weird 132 exalts, right? Because at the start, we started buying for like 1.1, 1.2 exalts, whereas at the end, it was more like 1.4, 1.5. So I don't know what they are right now, but overall, it's not that big of a deal, right? At the end, Simus are extremely profitable, as you can see. So our total profit comes down to 642 3.7 Exalts, which then in turn means that the profit per simulacrum is actually rounded up 6.43 Exalts. Do note that this is already with gem XP. Once again, I did not make a separate column. I just threw it all together as I explained at the start. Now, do note that this is without selling completions. We did not sell any completions. The build actually dies here or there, so I didn't want to risk like bricking one, right? But most of all, I just gave them away to some viewers here or there. Whenever I had some portals up, I said, guys, come in. All right, you can have it for free, right? So no fee for completions at all. You can probably make another 100 to 200 Exalts. So depending on how big of a name you are on TFT or whatever, if you're already somebody who does completions that people trust, you're going to make quite a lot more, or just selling them to your friends or whatever you want. I just gave them away for free, right? Now, also, I want to notice that you will already have noticed this in the gem section. I didn't go over strats too much. I don't have a super optimized gem leveling strat here. The super optimized gem leveling strat that I think is going to be the number one is leveling extremely expensive Awakened gems. So Awakened Multi-Strike, Awakened GMP, Awakened Chain, stuff like that. But you can always check this on PoE Trade. These, I don't want to put a definite strat here, because the problem is if you read this 2 weeks later, or if you watch this 2 weeks later, most likely it's going to be completely different. So there's no reason for me to actually include it here. But what I will say is if you min-max this, if you actually go out of your way to check prices, you'll probably make another 50 to 100 Exalts. So that's just on top of everything I just said. Now, your next question might be, well, how much do we make per hour? So what I did with time is I kind of timed, I didn't time all of them, but I timed around about 10 to 20, right? To just see what my average time was. And my average time was around about 28 minutes. It was a little bit less. Plus, I calculated in some off time. You're obviously no machine. So you're going to go to the toilet. You're going to chill. You're going to have a trade here or there. So what I did was I put 2 simulacrums per hour. Now, once again, there is builds that can do this, like my Arakalis build, right? Link in the description down below. But there's also builds that will take a lot longer. And my Arakalis build is very min-maxed. So I have a lot of Exalts in this build already. And it will matter in terms of damage, how fast you can actually clear the waves, obviously, right? So do take this with a grain of salt. So all of this up here, I can 100% be sure this is what we made, right, with the prices that we took. But in terms of hours, this is something you will have to adjust for yourself, just saying. So I put in 30-min average because I thought it was, number one, easier to calculate. But yeah, this was just the off time. And on top of that, I also put some extra time for realism's sake, right? There is going to be some off time. You're going to have to, like, I don't know, go put the trash bags out or whatever. So an extra 2 hours on top for a total of 52 hours, which comes out to Exalts per hours divided by hours total is a total of 12.36 Exalts per hour, which is absolutely crazy. Now, number one thing I will say here is down here, I also included the estimated trading time. So if you want to see what this looks like, if you also put in the trading time, it comes out to 10.9 Exalts per hour. I did this just because I have done this in the past. This is round about what it takes. Usually you do like a 5 to 6 hours trading session, and then not everything's going to sell. So later there's going to be a little bit more minute here or there. So in total, I just did 7 hours. Now this can obviously be 10 hours if you're not that experienced at trading or whatnot. And yeah, so that's what I just wanted to point out here, is that if you put in the trading, it's a little bit lower because Simulacrums does include quite a bit of trading. Now, what I will say here is why I think this number here is more important is that if you want to compare this to other strats, most people don't include the estimated trading time. So I also put this in here without the trading time. Now you might say, well, that's a lot of monies, right? Is it that easy to do simulacrums? Is it that easy to make money? Why isn't everybody doing it? Well, number one thing is you actually have to have a really, really, really good build. And what I mean by that is that you don't want a build that can complete Simulacrum. You want a build that completely annihilates Simulacrum. And the reason for that is that just because you can make one YouTube video with a Simulacrum clear doesn't mean anything if you want to do 100, right? Because there will be mods that are basically impossible for you to do, like combinations of mods where you're like, how am I supposed to clear this? And in those situations, if you can push on, if it's like a wave 26, if you would brick there, all the waves are lost, right? But if you don't brick, if your character is better than you would need, right? And you can actually push through these crazy waves that will happen to you eventually. They will happen to you. And And in those cases, you want a build that is extremely good. So what I will say is that if you actually want to make these kind of returns, you will have to do it similar to me and actually make a build that is made to do Simulacrum. So I will tell you all about that, what that actually means. But basically, you will not make these kinds of returns if you don't do that. If you just go in with your mapper thinking you're going to get anything, don't do it. You're going to be very disappointed. Now, the thing is, for example, right, let's say this doesn't take you 30 minutes, it takes you 45 minutes. This probably goes to like 9x per hour already. If you then, on top of that, brick some runs, right, this probably goes down to like 7x per hour. Maybe you also don't have the investment and you have to constantly sell your stuff off, which is going to take so much time. If you actually have the money to accumulate all of these simulacrums at once and you don't have to sell in between, and you can at the end sell these with like one trade, that is going to save you a ton of trading time as well. So if you do not have the currency to actually buy into simulacrums, this trading time here will explode from like 7 hours to like 20 hours, and you can be very, very, you already know what's going to happen with your X per hour then. So in the end, you can end up at like 4x if you don't do it correctly. On top of that, definitely check out how to level your gems correctly. Now, beyond just looking on PoE Ninja, what you can also do, right, is you can, for example, type in Awakened cost while channeling support. And what you can do here is in order to determine how much it's actually worth to get one from 1 to 5, all you do here is you do corrupted no, and then you can real quickly figure that out. So level 1 would be like 2.2 Exalts. The first one is probably mispriced here. 2.2, 2.3 Exalts. And if you push here, you can see what this is worth at level 5, which would be 3.8. So for leveling it from 1 to 5, you'll get you get an extra 1.5 Exalts, right? You can calculate it like that. It takes around about 20 simulacrums to level one of these, so you can kind of do the math yourself if you want to. But that, as I already stated down here, can make you another few Exalts in the process. Also look into completions and whatnot. Now, if we're talking about builds that can do simulacrums efficiently, it's mostly builds that are also good at bossing, but not bad at clearing. So, for example, you want a ton of damage, because the thing is, the further you get into the simulacrum, the more tanky Kosis is gonna get. And if you just have to stand there for 2 minutes and face tank him, something I want to point out here is that defenses are very important in Simulacrum. You do not have to be invincible. If you're invincible, but you do like no damage, you're going to make no money off of this, because your Simulacrums are going to take 50 minutes or like double what I would take here. So it's fine if you die here or there. There are some mod combinations that are absolutely crazy. If you want to prepare for everything that Simulacrum can throw at you, most likely you're going to take 50 minutes plus, or you have a build that takes like 2,000 Exalts or whatever, right? So that's what I'm going to point out first. But then there's some things that are very tailored towards Simulacrum. And that is, number one, that you want to definitely cap your Chaos Res. Right now, this is not capped for me, but it was. Now, the thing is, there is a lot of Chaos mods. Like there's physical as extra Chaos mods that get extremely frequent the higher you go in waves, and there is also Chaos Penetration. So being able to get up your Chaos Res, you're going to get annihilated if you go in with like, I don't know, minus Chaos Res or like 10 Chaos Res, and you think that's going to hold up, you're going to get destroyed. So being CI or having your Chaos Res capped is actually really, really important. On top of that, you need some good physical mitigation. And what that means, most builds that do Simulacrums efficiently are builds that stack armor with Molten Shell. So for example, if I have my flask up here, you can see I get to 50k armor, which allows me to get the full value off of Molten Shell. This is kind of the end goal you want to have. 50k armor. Above that, it's nice to have, but I would rather invest into other stuff, like for example, extra maximum resistances, because a lot of the damage that will come from the mods is also elemental damage. Physical is extra cold, fire, lightning, right? Elemental pen, cold pen, fire pen, lightning pen. All of that can be included. So if you're only looking for your armor, you're going to get stomped, because the later the waves get, the more it will be chaos and elemental heavy. So definitely prepare for that. Something that is also very nice to have in Simulacrum is, for example, a brass dome, because we already talked about all the max risk stuff, but also something that is can hit extremely hard is actually crits. Now, the further you get, the more mods will actually appear on your Simulacrum wave. And one of the ones that will come up more and more frequent is crit mods. And if you get crit, if all of a sudden mobs have like 20-30% crit chance, you're gonna get stomped, right? The spike damage is gonna get out of control, right? And the more damage you take, the less efficient your armor gets. So all in all, it's just crazy bad for you. Either you can have straight up a brass dome, which a lot of Simulacrum farmers actually have, take no extra damage from critical strikes down here with all the other good stuff, right? But you can also reduce extra damage taken from critical strikes through various means, so definitely look into that. Now, something that I already talked about in the map section at the start of the video, but I will repeat here, is that it is very important that you actually favor your maps here. Now, the thing about Simulacrums is they actually respect your atlas, meaning that whatever you're going to favor here, those are going to drop a lot more. So while I cannot really give you much guidance here, because obviously whenever you watch this, it could be the meta could be shifted, right? As of this recording, towers tier 10s are crazy expensive. These are like 16C each in bulk right now. So that's obviously something I did here. I actually put out 2 watchstones just to get there, right? And then we have a few for T16, I have Glacier, I have Silo for T15, I have atolls for T14. I would say towers and atolls are always a very flexible thing to do, right? They will usually net you good returns. With the other ones, just play around. I just wanted to remind you here, but definitely do look into what the current meta maps are. Now, something I want to say here at the end as well is that you might have seen that we have quite a bit of bulk, and there's so many things that you have to sell. So this is also why I included the estimated trading time, and this is actually one of the numbers that we came up with, is that if you're not somebody who is willing to trade for like hours on end after you're done with a big farming session, you will not like Simulacrums. I can tell you that right now. You will either like forego a lot of your money because you won't be looking through all your taps what you actually made, right? You will be like, oh, I didn't get that many returns from Simulacrum. How did you get 6x per Simulacrum back? I don't understand. But that's basically because there's so many different things you're dropping that you will have to sell at the end. So if you're not good at bulk selling, if you don't wanna bulk sell, right? You just don't enjoy stuff like that. Simulacrum will give you a lot less rewards. There is a ton to trade, but you can whittle it down by knowing how to bulk sell. I will actually link down in the description down to my bulk selling guide to give you a little bit more guidance, right? But yeah, overall, I would say if you're not somebody who is into that, don't do Simulacrums. You're going to have very different results. And I will have, usually what I do, and this will also be the case this time around, is after a farming session like this, we're actually going to trade everything on stream. Now, I used to not do this because I thought it would be annoying for people, right? But it seems like a lot of people are actually eager to see how I price my stuff, how I cut back on trading time, right? So you could just hang out on twitch.tv/Palstron with us if you want to. I don't know when you're going to watch this, but I'm doing selling sessions a lot of the time. So there might be a lot, it might be a lot more clearer then. But long story short, you don't have to love trading, but if you're not willing to do a few hours of trading after a long farming session, you will not like Simulacrums, and you probably shouldn't do them because you will make a lot less currency. You will not enjoy this farming method as much. So yeah, but that's it for the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe. As always, a huge thank you to my Twitch subscribers and my Patreons. I could not do videos like this without you, so thank you a lot for the support. And yeah, the 100 Simus are over. I actually gotta say that I was kind of dreaded starting those because I was like 100 Simus, 50 hours of just gray in the background. It's gonna be horrible. But in the end, all the hype drops, right? Like the voices drops, the enlightens drops, all the divination cards that are worth like 1x plus, they actually kept me going. So if you're somebody who really likes to have like big drops in between, I'm pretty sure that Simulacrums will fit your style overall. I got a little bit screwed on split personalities, which I'm a little bit salty about, but we did in the end get 2 voices free, so I'm happy about that. I hope I could give you some estimation of how lucrative Simulacrums actually are. So yeah, with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.